my name is Steve Stupak, and I decided to do my emerging technology on the program Hyena, Total System Administrator. What is Hyena, you may ask? Well, Hyena is a snap-in tool that was designed and built by System Tools Software to use all of Windows built-in administration features through one easy-to-use console. Hyena was designed to be extremely flexible, and by being so, it was allowed to work with any Windows environment 2000 and plus. So this will cover your basic home computers from Windows 2000, XP, Vista, as we have on the screen, up to 7, 8, and 10, but where you're primarily going to see this implemented is in a Windows Server setting. Generally, companies nowadays are working generally in 8 or 12 and are progressing to work their way towards 16. Larger companies tend to still be stuck in the older ones because you have multiple users, and the more users you have to move to a new domain or server, the longer it takes because you generally end up breaking stuff and it's not a whole lot of fun. This is where Hyena can come into play, because no matter what, Hyena will have the same feel no matter what Windows environment you are indeed working on. So if you are a large company planning on maybe moving from 12 to 16, or even just making the forward progression up to 12, if you were to have this program, your admins could install everything in the background and you could continue to use Hyena, and to you it would feel the same, almost as if nothing was changing in the background. Again, this could be beneficial in a few ways. Between training, you don't have to train all of your users how to use the new program, along with also being able to update your system like you would want to move forward with your design. Why would a large company want to use Hyena? Well, this one could go for many reasons. For starters, most companies use the Windows servers, and with this, Hyena tries to make it feel like a Windows program by having an Explorer-style interface for any operations, which would allow for possibly creating users, groups, new computers, and the list goes on. We can give some examples later in our presentation. So once you actually install Hyena, there isn't a whole lot to do if you actually have your server all completely set up. If you do have Active Directory domain services, user account. Oh, I'm just realizing I have that backwards. That is Active Directory domain services, not Active Domain Directory services. I am sorry about that. But yes, once you have all of your user database and all that set up, you can then go ahead and install Hyena, and it'll basically point itself in all of the correct directions. You will just need to pay attention at each screen, so you are indeed pointing it to the location you would like it to go to. So again, all being able to, you can easily create local, global, university, or universal security groups. You can add domains, manage files, you can add devices, any services, computers, and the list goes on. Hyena is a very, very flexible, integratable program that I think many businesses should look into, because it is not that bad of a tool. Alright, so what were we doing for our emerging tech project? Well, I wanted to create a functioning server where we would be able to create user accounts, security distribution groups, and manage them all through our one easy-to-use console. You can also add this in to Exchange Management console, or if you have installed an Exchange server on your server as well, you can integrate that and mail-enable users as well and give them an email address, and we will give an example of how you can do that later on as well. Again, I think businesses should look into Hyena because it is a very cheap, effective way to manage your systems, and they pride themselves on having very good customer support, always at the ready. And I personally have had experience with this program in a large business setting, and it is a wonderful administration tool to use, and so you don't have to be jumping around many, many consoles. Our project scope was to build the server, install and configure our Windows Server 2012. I was able to get a product key for our server off DreamSpark that LSC provides for us, so that was very nice. I had to install the feature of DNS to be able to set our static IP. Then I was able to promote the server to a domain controller and then install the Active Directory Domain Services feature for being able to create and manage our user accounts. Then once we had all that, we were able to install Hyena to manage our server. Well, when it came to building our server, I had some components laying around, and so just picked up a few new parts to build the server itself. Ended up going with a quad-core i5 3.4 GHz. It's a 4600K series. Not a bad processor. We'll definitely get the job done for our demonstration purposes here, with 16 gigs of DDR3 RAM, 256 gig SSD to store all of our programs, and then a 4 terabyte hard drive for our share drive that our users will be delegating security on. Initially, I had ran into a power overload issue with my motherboard, and I would boot, and I wouldn't even get the BIOS screen. It would just tell me that there was a current overload, and on the internet, all I could find was you're grounding out somewhere, and there was really no specifics to what I was looking for. So I just tore it apart and managed to find one of my standoffs was one position to the left farther than it should have been, and it happened to be just enough to ground out my board. Once I put that in the correct spot, it was booted right to BIOS, and our BIOS had a temp monitor on it, and it was running at 28 degrees Celsius with our super big CPU cooler on it, and that is a very nice, cool temperature that we would like to be running at for starters. We do not seem to be running hot whatsoever. The installing of Server 2012, that was very straightforward. Like I said, I got the key from DreamSpark. After that, we did updates, and we had our basic server set up. After that, I had to go ahead and install DNS, and before you can promote to a domain controller, you have to be able to set a static IP. So we initially installed our DNS server tool, and then after that, we went to our Ethernet properties, and we went in and we gave it a static IP, new default gateway, set the default gateway as our preferred DNS, and then set Google as our alternate DNS server, because that's always a safe fallback. This was our Ethernet beforehand. Whoops, I'm sorry about that. This was our Ethernet beforehand, and this was our Ethernet after I had set the static IP for our IPv4. So that worked successfully. After that, I was able to promote my server to a domain controller. This one, again, was pretty straightforward. Just go to Tools and add a service. We went ahead and created a new forest. And, yep, after that, we were able to then manage and create user accounts with ADDS, because we went ahead and installed that, and also needed the ASP.NET 4.5, and I'm pretty sure we need the Net Framework 3.5 as well. I just didn't install it yet at this point when I took the picture. Alright, and then we get down to the nitty-gritty of what we're really here for, Hyena. So, Hyena, again, we initially went to the website, installed it. You can see here our program is indeed available. Fired it right up. Really not a whole lot of issues, some selecting of things in here. They are very cheap and easy to use. They actually don't price their services by users or end support users. They just want you to pay per admin that will be using the Hyena software. So that's actually pretty nice. So if you're even a smaller company, if you have 3 admins, you're only looking at just under probably about $850 or so to have all 3 admins be able to run this console for a year. And if you're a large enough company, that should be no worry. These prices are outrageous to one person, yes, but to a company, I mean, this is absolutely nothing. I did the math, and if you had 50 users, it was, or no, I'm sorry, if you had 102 users, it was just shy of $15,000. And I mean, if you needed 100 admins, that's insane that $15,000 would be nothing to you. But anyway, onward. Okay, well, now let's hop into our server. I actually have it running in the background, and we can go ahead and check it out. I was going to wrap up with this, but rather than reopen PowerPoint, I just figured it was easier now. Yeah, anyway, onward. Here you can see our server is up and running. Yes, yes. So we will start. This is Hyena. I will blow it up here so you can see it nice and easy. It's kind of a lot to look at first glance, but up here you will have your server, and then down here is the forest you created for your domain, and then below it, it gives you some pre-made things, and I have gone ahead and already made some new organizational units, or OUs, under for security group, and then health clinic users here. We will go ahead as an example. We will make a new organizational unit real quick just to show how simple and easy it is to set everything up here. We'll just call it test. Easy enough. Close, reopen it. Boom, there it is. Oh, would you look at that? Well, so we got a new OU. There's absolutely nothing in it, but what if we make a new user? Alright, we'll name him Testy McGee, and we'll call him T McGee. His user login will be T McGee. Alright, easy enough. Give him a quick password here. Alright, easy enough. Now we got a user. Well, let's keep rolling with it. This is where you start to separate your security groups and stuff, but we will keep it all in one just for demonstration purposes. Alright, so we will go ahead now and make a new group as well. Toss them next to it. This will be our test group. And we will make a global security group because we are going to secure a folder on our own network with this group. Alright, well that was easy enough. So now we see we have our test group and our test user. Well, how do we get test user in there? That's easy enough. Just open up our test group. We'll pop over to the members tab, open it up. Our user's name is Testy McGee. We can either look him up by his alias or login, the T McGee, or we can look him up by his username. We can just type in the TE. We will tab over to check names, hit enter, and sure enough, there is our user, Testy McGee. We will add him to our security group. And there we go. So this is the only thing Hyena does not integrate is your folder system. So you will basically, the only two tabs you should have to tab between is your share drive and your Hyena interface for the most part. We will make a new folder, call it test. We'll go over here to properties, hop over to security just like any other admin center. Disable the inheritance quick here. Get rid of all users. We'll leave the creator since I left it and any administrators. So now we can go back in, add our test group, give them modify access. Easy as that. Now Testy McGee's got the only person who has access to our test folder. Okay, now but what if Testy McGee needed a computer to use? Well, that's again easy enough. We'll just go new computer, agree, make him a new computer. Again, this computer would have to be on your domain already, and you would just be adding it at this point. So I cannot physically create this. I'm basically making an alias within Hyena for this computer. So again, you'd find it here. You could go down and just add Testy McGee right to the users tab. It would be as easy as that. What if you wanted to have Exchange integrated into Hyena? That again is also easy. You would just go up here into Tools, down to Settings, over to Exchange, and as you can see here, we have enabled the integration. And last but not least, we will show how you could do that. You right-click again. Here's that browser interface that we've been going through many times. But you can come right up here, create a new alias, and it's as easy as that. We don't actually have one, but If we did, it would be that easy. So I hope you learned something about Hyena. Enjoy.